When? Okay. So I just want to thank you all for coming out and sharing a day with us. And I really hope to give you an oversight of a quick one of astrology. Obviously, we're not going to do a full session. If I do a seminar, it's usually a couple hours of astrology. But more than astrology, I believe in teaching people and helping people, guiding people, if you would, to more control over their own life. It's one thing to have somebody tell you what's going to happen in your life, but I'd rather tell you how to make sure that the outcome of what happens in your life is positive and good. And in my years of study and research, over 50 years, quite frankly, I've found that it's really not so important what happens to us in life. It's more important how we respond to it. And you know, most everybody in this room is children. You spend your whole lifetime with them growing up, trying to teach them the perfect response, the right response to things that happen in life. And that's called responsibility. The word's an interesting word, the ability to respond. And if you think about it, that's what we spend most of our time teaching our children. And we've had to learn in our own life is what's called responsibility. So again, back to astrology. Astrology surely will indicate many things in your life. It'll show where you have challenges. It'll show where there's complex psychological issues. It'll show many things about your temperament. And because it does, as Shakespeare says in Brutus, he says it's not in our stars. Dear Brutus, is not the fault lies not in our stars that we are underlings. It's in ourselves. But anyway, astrology can definitely guide us though and give us a lot of direction. We'll try to cover some of that today. And if I can get this to work, there it is, okay. So my site, if you get a chance to go to it on the web, is Aquarian Awakening. And it's got a lot of information on it. And I talk about astrology and its influence on our language. I don't know if you realize it, how much of your language is determined by astrology. If you look at this, I just put this sentence together, this paragraph together. It's not an actual event, but I just want to show how many words are astrological. Consider the disaster that befell Israel when influenza hit the nation in March of 1992 or 72. Lunacy and panic ruled as sagacious minds attempted to restore order. The medical community was dissatisfied and refused to be a scapegoat for the accusations that they did not list the chronological order of the unfolding events in an attempt to avoid a pandemic. The capricious actions of some was offset by the satirical humor of others. Now, I just invented that whole paragraph, but I wanted to use the words to show you how many you use that are astrological. And all the ones that are highlighted there's 14 words in that are all astrological, rooted in astrology. Consider, it comes from sidereal, the stars. Con means to be together with. So the word consider meant to look at the stars and to be in harmony with those stars. Disaster comes from two roots, discord and astord, which is discord in the stars. Israel, the word Israel, any Jewish here? Israel comes from three roots, Isis, Ra, and Elohim. And I've had some contention with people that think I'm wrong. But it's the roots of that is Isis, the moon god, Ra, the sun god, and Elohim, the planets. That's where it came from. Okay? So, influenza, the disease or the sickness, influenza, that came from the influence of the stars. That's what they believed. And that's why they named it such. Okay? March, of course, is from Mars. Lunacy, we all know what that came from, the moon. And maybe you've been feeling it lately in the last few days. It's closer to the earth now than it normally is. So it can affect sleep and other things. So, and I believe it also affects people that are a little bit, how would I say this, maybe a little on the edge of craziness. You qualify? We got a volunteer already. Yeah. So the reason is the moon affects the fluids in the body and the oceans, and of course the land. You get a 3 inches of land lift every time there's a full moon. This last full moon is very strong because it was so close to the earth, and so I believe its effect comes from the inner ear, fluids in the inner ear, and people that are a little bit off balance, we use the inner ear to determine our balance, right? So if you get a disturbance in that inner ear, it can translate into uncomfortableness and maybe cause people to be a little bit offset anyway. They're maybe going to do something bizarre. But anyway, it's just a theory. My son would say, no, it's a hypothesis, Ron. It's not a theory. So, anyway, so panic came from Pan, the goat god. Okay, Pandora's box came from the same place. Opening up Pandora's box. That's all Saturn, Pan, the goat god, Saturn. Okay. Sagacious, the word came from Sagittarius. Have any Sagittarians here? So that is the word, it's rooted in that. To be a Sagittarian, you're supposed to be wise. Okay? Okay, so the word dissatisfied, believe it or not, comes from Saturn. The word satisfy means it's Saturn. So if you have an affliction in your chart between, let's say, for example, let's say Saturn's afflicting. What is an affliction? That's an aspect that is a stress aspect in your chart. So if you have a Saturn aspecting, let's say Venus in an uncomfortable energy aspect, a square and opposition, which are hard aspects they're called, they form the crosses in your chart. So if you have let's assume you had a Venus square Saturn. Now we do your charts later, you have this, you're going to say, Ron, I don't like this. But it can show a dissatisfaction with your relationships. Okay, again, Saturn is dissatisfaction. And the early Christians, of course, were teaching what? They taught abstinence from food and from any kind of sensual things, because that was a way to get victory over Saturn, which has always got an appetite for something. So fulfilling one's senses is very Saturn. To satiate, the word satiate is from Saturn. Okay? So anyway, stay on course here.